Okay, we're going to talk about today, we're talking about the expanding universe. Okay? And we're just going to kind of hit up on it because, again, as I told you before I started recording, it is theory. And they hit on all the theories of how the planets was formed, how the universe was formed, how the stars were formed, and what they leave out, drop my glasses. What they leave out is God. Okay? So we're going to talk about it because I do think it's important for you to understand that there is different theories out there, because I think it's important for you, that way you can argue your point. If you ever do come up with someone who wants to talk about the theory of evolution, for example, versus God created man, then you can speak to him intelligently, not just be blindsided by what he believes, because he's probably going to be pretty well versed on what you believe. Most atheists, believe it or not, are usually pretty well versed in the Bible. Okay, because that's their whole point. They try to disprove the Bible being true and correct. They can't do it, but they try. But because of that, they're pretty well versed in the Bible, and unfortunately sometimes more so than Christians who don't always know the Bible as well as we should. So knowledge is power. So in order to offset what other people are trying to convince you is true, trying to change your mind from the truth, you want to be able to state your belief, and it can't just be, well, why do you believe in God? Because my mom told me to. It can't. As you grow up, you can't do that. Okay, that's not going to be a valid.
I mean, you can say that, but that's not.
Leo, if you're 40 years old and I'm arguing the existence of God, and you tell me it's because your mom said so, I've got you already. If that's your fallback, you've lost. Okay, you've got to understand it and be a little bit more knowledgeable than mom said so. Now, mom's not going to steer you wrong. Don't misunderstand me. That's not what I'm saying. But that's not going to be a fallback when you're a grown up. You need to have your faith at that point. Okay. Yes, Kayla.
So there's like dinosaur bones everywhere.
Yep.
Well, then if God created everything at once, then how did the dinosaurs not eat all of us?
I didn't say created everything.
The flood.
First of all, if you read the Bible makes mention of these huge beasts with tails the size of tree trunks.
Dinosaurs.
Says it right there in the Bible. Now, I'm not saying they were the dinosaurs as we know them today, but the Bible mentions it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
So, if it wasn't a meteorite, it was the flood. It was.
I think it was the flood.
It was the meteorite. It was the meteorite.
No, there wasn't, there's craters
I don't know.
on the
I have an
earth
argument
of
now.
strong meteorites. But I don't think that's what wiped it out. Because if that was what wiped it out, then we would all
we'd all be dead.
That's right.
Well, life as we know it would have ceased to exist at that point in time. Yes.
I've always wondered two things. First of all, I always did wonder when did the dinosaurs come in? If during the Adam and Eve, and now that you said that, I know. And when everyone talks about the cavemen that used to be around and stuff, when were they ever?
Well, and there was different. I won't say different species, but men had actually gone through an evolution. I believe in evolution to a point that things adapt. I guess I believe more in adaptation. Things do adapt. Man adapts to different climates, to different situations, to different, things of that nature. That's why African Americans, Africa being, it was a hot continent, their skin pigment, as they adapted to that, their skin pigment becomes darker to help protect them.
Cavemen, I think it's the Crudes.
Things of that nature. So I mean, you do adapt, and that's where they have that in birds. Over time, birds' beaks will adapt to the food that they're having to eat. It will adapt and change. Okay, so things do adapt. I mean, think about you. Think about someone my age. When I was your age, there was no, we didn't have computers and iPhones, and so I've had to adapt to a whole different type of technology and things just in my lifetime. Now that's not changing as like what we're talking about here, but man has to adapt, and you adapt to things. Animals adapt.
Everything.
Otherwise, nothing could exist for long periods of time.
But we don't think it was to that
That's why all the
scale.
super hairy guys are from up north.
Could be. Could be.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
He's from Pennsylvania.
Let's talk about. That's not far enough. We're talking about the expansion of the universe. Okay, that's what we're getting ready to talk about. Hubble's law says that the further away. The further away a universe is, the faster it's moving away from us. Okay? So, to show you how it expands, I put a bunch of little black dots on a balloon. Okay? See all the little black dots on the balloon? Okay. Now I'm going to blow it up. Okay?
Oh, this is so weird.
Mr.
They're gonna,
Sun.
the black dots are gonna expand.
No.
They're gonna go away from
It's not there anymore.
Now, they move so far away that they're even hard to see. Okay? But they moved really far away, as you can see. If you can see them, you can barely see them. And we'll let it out. Now we're going to make the little boys giggle because of the noise. Okay? All right? There you go. And there they're back. Okay? All right. Now, the sad part is I could do that in a room full of 40-year-olds and they would giggle too sometimes. That's kind of sad. But, nonetheless. All right. So, this talks about how was the universe formed, okay? And, of course, when this book was published, and this is a little bit older textbook, it talks about the Big Bang, okay, the Big Bang. Now, they're kind of walking away from the Big Bang a little bit right now. They're saying, okay, that might not be what exactly happened, so let's change it, and they're coming up with something just as crazy. But Big Bang, if you look at the period at the end of one of the sentences in your book
But
here.
then again, how did whatever this...
Would you let me continue, please? Just for a second, and I will get with you. Okay? A period at the end of that sentence right there is out there floating around, and there is a massive explosion. And it creates gases and dust and particles. And over time then, all of these things, the gravitational pull, the dust, everything starts to form the planets, the stars, everything. Okay? That is what the Big Bang Theory is. So according to the Big Bang Theory, the universe formed in an instant, billions of years ago, and an enormous explosion. Okay? And since the Big Bang, the size of the universe has been increasing rapidly. The universe is billions of times larger than it was early in history. And they have proof that the universe is continuing to expand. Okay? And that was part of what made them think it was an explosion that caused it. Because they're saying this explosion is continuing through space, and it's just continuing, the ripple effect is just continuing to go, making everything larger, larger, and larger. Okay, that's the theory of the Big Bang. They can't bring in how did man get here or anything like that. Now, I do believe there was a Big Bang. Okay, I believe in the Big Bang. Okay, I believe when God said, "Let there be,"
It goes...
I think there was all kinds of rapid going on in the universe. Okay, I think when he said, because the Bible, see, this is the thing. If you believe the Word of God, the Bible is the Word of God. The Word of God is true, and I do believe that. When God said, "Let there be light,"
There was a big bang.
light came out of His mouth. Okay, that's where the light came from. That's what the Bible tells us. So. That's what I believe. So I enjoy reading about the other theories, but I have never hit on one yet that has changed my mind about God created everything. Yes, sir.
Since God already created most, all of us, why do you think He's still continuing to expand
Yeah,
We're failures.
yeah. I mean, same reason a star is being born every second. Okay? Why did, he didn't just create them. Everything has a lifespan, right? So if he didn't continue to create stars, then eventually the stars would die out.
And if he didn't keep creating
So-
us, where would we be?
Yeah. So,
For at least.
and I'm not going to stand here, Caleb, and try to tell you that I have all the answers, because I don't. But the Bible also tells us that there's things we need to know, and there's things that we will never
Can't
understand.
We physically,
Yeah,
we
we won't-
mentally can't
Yeah,
understand.
we will not understand that. It's kind of like trying to wrap our heads around how powerful and how big God is. We can't. We try to put him in a box and make him the size of man so we can understand him. We don't
No,
get
the
it.
hardest
When that song, he's got the whole world in his hands,
That's scary.
he does.
His whole world in it.
I mean, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just a little song. He does. I mean, he's that huge. Now, something else I want you to think about real quick before we continue, okay? In Job, Leo, would you please quit talking? In Job, he talks about, okay, another way that, this is another reason that you kind of proves that there is a God. In the Old Testament, in Job, when Job is starting to question some things, he talks to Job about these stars, this star pattern, right? And he asks it, can you hold that or measure that between your thumb and your index finger? And of course Job goes, no, but I can. Those stars, that cluster, they've never been discovered. But it talks about them in the Old Testament. Well, guess what? Once we start studying the stars, guess what we find? That cluster that he was talking about in the Old Testament is right there. It's right where he said it was. How did they know about that, to write about it in the Old Testament, if it wasn't inspired by God?
Yeah, there's.
You see, God is in the details. You just got to look. He's everywhere. You just got to look for him. You just got to look sometimes. It's so obvious. He's right in front of us, and we completely miss him about half the time. He's right there. He's right there. Yes?
So every second. Wait.
Every second a star is made.
Yeah,
A
but
star is born.
so every day there's 86,000.
I don't know. I've never done the math. If you did the math, if that's what it is. But think about how big the universe is. And if it's expanding constantly.
But doesn't a star die
Yeah.
every second too?
Stars do die. They do die. And I don't know if one dies every second or not, but they do die.
Yeah.
Everything has a life expectancy. All right, now, moving galaxies. Okay? Hubble discovered, I can't get my glasses not to steam up, and I don't want to wear my little dog collar today. Hubble discovered, now remember Edwin Hubble? He's the guy who, he had the huge telescope, and then the Hubble telescope is actually named after him. He didn't invent the Hubble telescope, but it's named after him. He discovered that with the exception of a few nearby galaxies, all galaxies are moving away from us and each other. And he found that there was a relationship between the distance to the galaxy. Pull up too high, I can't breathe. In its speed. Excuse me, please. Hubble's law states that the further away a galaxy is, the faster it is moving away from us. I believe you see that again, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And then they come up with the different types. Now they show you the example of raisin bread. Any of you ever made raisin bread, where you take the dough and you put the raisins in it real close together, and then you bake it, and as the dough rises and expands, the raisin spreads out.
For chocolate chip cookies.
Same thing with the balloon that I just did at the beginning of class. They spread out, okay? So the whole idea was to show you that as things expand, stuff moves farther
So because of
apart.
it moving away, you theorize that the universe is expanding.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. All right. Now, cosmic background radiation In 1965, you had two American physicists accidentally detected, it's funny, would you clear up? I'm going to have to put on that little silly thing. Accidentally detected faint radiation on their radioscopes or telescopes, and this mysterious glow was coming from all directions in space. Okay, and they later concluded that this glow is, and they now call it the cosmic background radiation. Okay, and it's a leftover thermal energy from the Big Bang. Now we're going to talk about energy next quarter. That's one of the things that we will talk about in mechanics and motion and all that. Did you know that energy cannot be destroyed? It can be transferred, but it cannot be destroyed. Okay? Now, somebody asked in the last class, well, how do you run out of energy? You don't run out of energy. You get tired, but you don't run out of energy. Okay? Your heart continues to beat, your lungs continue to work, your brain is functioning. You have energy. Okay? Now, so if you've got energy, which we all acknowledge that we have energy, and it can't be destroyed, what happens when we pass on?
The energy passes on
Where
to the
does that
dirt.
energy go? What is that
To the
energy?
dirt.
It goes into the air.
It goes in the air.
Dirt. Well, if you're buried, it goes
How
into
about
the
your
dirt.
soul?
Heaven or hell.
Do you think your soul might be energy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just asking. What do you think?
It goes to heaven.
I think it could be. I think that could be.
I've always wondered if
Energy.
your personality
Wouldn't
goes
it be
along.
I think
pure
your
energy?
soul could
Also, the
be
energy
energy.
transfers.
Wouldn't it
So,
be?
so just, you know, that's just a. They like to throw out theory. That's a theory. That's a theory.
Wait,
That's
does
all
that
it
mean
is.
that we don't technically need to sleep?
No, your body needs rest. Your body
We'll
needs
die if we
rest.
don't
You need to recharge, but you don't run out of energy.
energy.
Your
Wait,
muscles
then
get
what happens
tired.
when your iPad dies and
Your muscles
runs
get
out of
tired.
energy?
That's not energy, that's electricity. That's
Yeah,
electricity.
that's not. It
That's
does.
battery.
It's a battery. You can recharge
That's
it.
electricity.
It doesn't go away. It doesn't destroy it.
You can't reach.
All right, we'll get to that later. All right. Now they talked about the age of the universe. They talk about the universe is 13.7 billion years old. 13.7 billion years. Now, how old is our sun? How old do they estimate our sun is? 10 billion years. And they estimate it's been around for a little bit more than 5 billion years. Okay? So if the universe is 13.7 billion years and everything was created by this Big Bang, how's our sun younger than the universe?
So that's how old
I'm just asking.
Maybe.
No, I'm just asking. That's not what it says.
Yeah.
Dude, that's not what theory says. That's not their theory. I'm pointing out holes in their theories already. Okay? That's what I'm doing. Cause, no. Okay? Now, I'm sure they could counter with exactly what you're saying. Well, we didn't mean that everything was created. Some things was created later.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, you know, that's an
Yeah,
argument.
so how many
That
Big
is an
Bangs
argument.
were there? Like,
Okay? Now, talking about the inner planets, when they talk about when the solar system formed, temperature was very high. I can't see. It was so hot, close to the sun, that most water and other ice-forming materials simply evaporated. Most gases escaped the gravity of the planets that were forming in this region. As a result, the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, are relatively small and rocky because they were close to the sun and the heat kept them from getting huge. Okay? In contrast, to further from the sun, it was much colder, so the planets in that area, of course, grew to be gas giants because it was cooler. They might be a little bit, I could almost buy into that being a possibility, simply because if you ever notice when you get into water, okay, if Julia walked up here right now and tried to hold me in her arms, she would have a hard time, okay? She would have a hard time doing that. Not that you're not a strong young lady, but, you know, I'm 180 pounds, that would be a little harder for you to hold up. But if we were in a swimming pool,
Just easy.
You could
yeah,
easily.
you can easily do it because the water actually helps support that. So you can kind of see where they come up with that theory, okay? You can kind of tie that all in together. And that's something else we're going to talk about later, okay? All right, 4 homework questions tonight. Hope you enjoyed this ever so slightly. We had a chance to tie Bible and science in together, which I like to do. And I just want to say hey to Catherine.